I think we can start. We have majority of the participants in. So good morning, everyone. I am glad to welcome you to the second webinar of the Philippine Society for Microbiology's Microbiology Education Consortium. I am Dr. Leslie Michelle M. Dalmasio of the UP College of Medicine and a PSM member. I will be your moderator for this webinar. To welcome us to this webinar and give an overview of the Microbiology Consortium activities, let us hear from Academician Asuncion K. Raimundo, the Microbiology Consortium Committee Chair. Academician Raimundo.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this second webinar of the Microbiology Consortium. I hope you were able to attend the first one, where we had a sort of overview on remote blended learning. Today, we will learn from an expert in distance education how to design remote learning in microbiology. Our third webinar, scheduled on July 2, please take note, 10 a.m. will be on the topic of assessment of microbiology courses in remote instructions. Details will be sent to you soon. We know that what will be shared with us in this series of webinars are just sort of eye-openers, and it is up to us to study further and apply them in preparing for our next semester's teaching responsibilities. The other initiative that the Microbiology Consortium is taking is towards the development of unified materials for the laboratory component of basic microbiology based on the harmonized syllabus. The arrangement is that a group of HAIs is assigned to develop a module for one of the exercises in the basic microbiology. In the harmonized microbiology, there are 7. So there are 7 groups which will be working on each of those exercises. Then all the modules in whatever form that will be proposed will all be put together, and the different HAIs can comment on them. After they have finalized, they can then be placed in an open portal which can be used by MC members. As for the higher microbiology courses, same arrangement was made. Again, a group of HIs is assigned to a major course and will establish a framework for teaching the course in a remote or blended mode. Likewise, this will be shared with everybody. The timeline is what is critical. We have barely, 2 months left before we start our classes. The MC board will meet again on July 10, and we will see what have transpired during the past 2 weeks. So all members of the consortium, please participate and contribute towards the development, establishment of a common portal for microbiology courses in remote learning in the Philippines. On behalf of the Microbiology Consortium Board, I wish to thank my long overdue relative, Dr. Maria Rowena Raimundo, for having accepted this invitation to be our webinar speaker this morning. And also to our Suki host moderator, Dr. Leslie Dalmasio. I should also like to thank the guy behind the scenes who made all this physical arrangement for this series of webinars, Mr. Bonnie Datul. So enjoy the webinar and good day to all. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Academician Raimundo. We are excited for the upcoming activities of the Microbiology Consortium that will benefit its members and the Philippine microbiology community. In the first Microbiology Consortium webinar that was held last June 11, Dr. Iris Thiel Isiptan gave a talk about flipped classroom and blended learning. This was followed by blended learning examples in microbiology lecture and laboratory classes given by Dr. MARILEN Balolong and Mr. John Daniel Ong, respectively. For today's webinar, we will be listening to Dr. Maria Rowena Raimundo of the UP Open University about remote instruction. If you have questions, please type them in the chat box and we will acknowledge them during the open forum. Are you ready for today's lecture? The topic in this webinar is Designing Learning for Microbiology Courses in Remote Instruction. Delivering the lecture is Dr. Maria Rowena Raimundo. Dr. Raimundo is a graduate of the UP Open University's Master of Distance Education program. Currently, she is the chair of the Master of Distance Education and Graduate Certificate in Distance Education programs, and also the assistant to the Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs on Quality Assurance of the UP Open University. She is also an obstetrician gynecologist with subspecialization on infectious diseases. She obtained her MD from the UP College of Medicine under the 7-year intermed program. She was also a former clinical assistant professor at the UP-PGH Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Aside from her work at the UP Open University, Dr. Wen is an active clinical trialist and researcher. So now, I give the screen to Dr. Wen. Let us listen to her lecture this morning. The screen is yours, Dr. Wen.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Am I on? Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm not sure if you heard me this a while ago, but this is Wen Raimundo, and I'm about to share with you whatever I know on online remote learning in the context of your microbiology courses. So I'm like what Ma'am Leslie said, I'm from the UP Open University, and we are known for being a distance education institution, and we are also fully online. And like she said, my background is on, I am trained in distance education. By profession, I am a doctor, but my subspecialty is also in infectious diseases. So I have some background both on medical microbiology and some aspect of infectious disease, specifically OBGYN. Now, the topic that I was requested to speak on is designing learning for microbiology in the context of remote instruction. So as Dr. Delmasio said, there was a previous webinar held by your consortium with 3 speakers, and I would like to give a brief recap of that for 2 reasons. First, I don't want to repeat, I don't want to duplicate what has been said. Second is I want us to build on previous learnings from that talk. So I will use their I will use some of the things that you have learned from those talks in my talk. However, this will be an entirely different talk because the perspective is different. So like she said, we had a talk on flipped learning and then examples of teaching microbiology in remote, in both in the blended and remote, and teaching microbiology lab in the same setting. So for Dr. Tan, she spoke of the following topics. And if you are, the video is available on YouTube, and if you can see the timestamp beside it. If you want to go through it, go back to it. So the things she discussed were flipped learning, backward design, designing for flipped learning, guided practice, the triple alignment of learning outcomes, assessment, and teaching and learning activities, the materials used. She also, with regards to teaching and learning activities, she gave specific examples in the form of examples of what activities to use, such as a YouTube video in her handout, or probably if she said that if the learner was not technically capable of accessing this, you could give a handout, send the LMS or email. She gave an example of active learning. If you remember, there was this microscope comparison table where the student, while watching the video or looking at the PDF, could actively enter some answers. She gave an example of gamification by considering a scavenger hunt, like looking for certain bacteria. She gave an example of synchronous teaching and learning activities. She stressed the importance of educators as curators of information, problem-based learning, annotating in the learning management system. She brought up the issue of intellectual property rights and also mentioned the SAM-R model of Ruben Puentedura, meaning substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition of information that you have to adapt it to online learning. She spoke of the bandwidth, immediacy matrix, and the educational technology tools. And towards the end, in reimagining your course, she gave you an idea of what your courses could be. Like you building on a TED Ed by making your lesson, building your lesson around it, how to incorporate Ed Puzzle. She gave you the information about the virtual laboratory experience available in the internet, like virtual microorganisms, the virtual lab for gram staining, the virtual interactive bacterial lab, which I also enjoyed because you could hold the wire loop and have it do the things that in the activity using your mouse. Now, after that comprehensive talk, we moved on to Dr. Balolong's talk. And this time, she spoke of how microbiology lectures in UP Manila were delivered, both in blended and remote. It was a good thing that she compared pre-COVID lectures and activities and assessments, both formative and summative, with post-COVID adaptations. She evidently used a lot of activities being uploaded in the learning management system. Specifically, she mentioned the use of the Google Drive, the Google Classroom, most specifically Google Classroom. So she also discussed some challenges. And for the last part of that talk, Assistant Professor Ong discussed the counterpart in laboratory. So again, there was a comparison between the pre-COVID and the pre-lockdown and the post-lockdown activities. And this was very clearly shown in his presentation. There was a demonstration of, there was even a table, comparing the two. So why did there was also a demonstration on a pre-lab video, which was actually being used even prior to the lockdown. And then after that, he showed examples of activities, teaching and learning activities using Edmodo, which is again another learning management system like Google Classroom in a way. So why did I go through all these and why did I have to recap? Because in planning for a talk and training, first you need to know You need to analyze what things you already have, what knowledge you already have. And what did we learn from these talks? We learned that there are already many available technology tools for teaching and learning microbiology remotely. There are so many things readily available if you have the internet and you have the time to surf it. However, these tools may not always be accessible to all. For example, people might not have the gadget or the hardware available for it. They may have the gadget, but they may not have the network connection. And I'm just speaking of SMS or cellular reception. And then you may not have a stable internet connection. Or even if you have a stable internet connection, there may be too many of you logging in. So the bandwidth is limited. And then different people have different levels of technology adoption. Some are digital natives like our students now, and many of us in our age group are digital migrants, where technology of this sort is new to us and we just adapted and learned, maybe formally, maybe informally, by self-study or by others teaching us. We also learned from their talks that these technology tools, they are so plentiful, but they need to be curated, meaning they have to be selected, planned, organized, and their use is dependent on the relevance to our needs. We also learned that likewise in the same, not if you think about learning resources, there are also many available learning resources for teaching and learning microbiology. A quick search of the internet will give you so many scholarly resources and non-scholarly too for laymen. Again, these may not always be readily accessible to all, always or not readily. There may be issues like, is it copyrighted or is it proprietary? Am I encroaching on any intellectual property right? Can I use this? Can I use this as this video, this picture, this resource in my material? Some of it is very nice, but it's subscription based. For instance, Labster is a very nice, very comprehensive, and very good virtual application. It's used by a lot of institutions, even Ivy League, like Harvard, but it's very pricey. So whatever material you can get is one which is readily available to you. What determines it is your logistics or the proprietary or copyright imposed on it. Again, these learning materials, like the tech tools, they need to be curated, selected, planned, and organized. Now, again, if you're going to think about levels of expertise, both the teachers and the learners, like I said, have varying levels of expertise in accessing both the learning resources and the tech tools. Now, both of them may be willing to learn how to use the tools, but there is no one to train them to do so. And they have being overworked and overloaded and probably underpaid. They don't have the time to, do it by themselves. And a lot of times the institution does not have also the logistics to get a team dedicated to creating this material. So the teachers have to do it on their own. This is an example of the technology adoption diagram, which shows that, all of us are somewhere here in this spectrum. Some are really technophobes. They don't like anything tech related. There are some who use very traditional or mainstream technology tools, but there are some who are also early adopters. Like if there's a new tool or a new app or a new technology matrix or platform or interface available, they're eager to try it out. Now, in a situation like a normal situation, you have the option. The problem now is we don't have a choice because all of us have been caught in this COVID situation where we're in a lockdown. Whether you are a technophobe or tech savvy, we don't have a choice. We need to make use of the technology that's available to us. Now, if you have the resources and the tools, there's so many, like in the past talk, it is so tempting to, use it because it's cool. Diba? It's, if you see those applications, you see, the students will like this, or this is so cool. So there is a danger of using it and applying it in your teaching and learning activities without regard for pedagogy or the teaching aspect. And this is likely because if you think about it, most of us who are teachers in higher education institutions, are teachers mainly because we are subject matter or discipline experts. And very few of us, only a few, have formal training in education and in knowing how to teach and all the teaching theories, the educational theories. Kung ano man yung alam po natin, kunyari po, Bloom's taxonomy or formative, summative assessment, many of those we learned from, let's say, crash course workshops because we needed to make our learning objectives and we were told that we were shifting to an outcomes-based education and we needed to obedize our courses. So we needed those para the information came as we needed them, but we were never really formally trained to keep it as a mindset. So yung impulse mo minsan, parang gusto mong gamitin or kasi hindi mo na nakakalimutan mo na yung pedagogical aspect na ang nangyayari, it's the technology that's driving the pedagogy. And this was stressed by some of our speakers that pedagogy should always drive the technology, not the other way around. Now, the last issue is that what we have existing is that even if they, let's say, sige, the students are willing and are able, students and teachers are willing or able to use the technological tools, the technical tools, and the available resources individually for their own learning, they tend to use it individually with or without institutional support. One example, for instance, is the learning management system. If you're from the University of the Philippines, alam mo naman na may UVLE, diba? Or I think UP Manila is going to have Canvas. But most of the time, it is voluntary. And in this time of, I hope you will not mind the sound if you hear that. It's something going on in my neighborhood. If you are encouraged to use your LMS, it's mostly voluntary. No? So if you visit the LMS of different constituent universities of UP, you will see random, let's say, different segments or different sectors or departments uploading their material, which is good, which is fine because they had a venue for communication and for repository of materials. However, it's voluntary. No? More often than not, hindi siya concerted effort. Like example, other institution mandating the use of that for, let's say, their high school, because this is higher education institutions, and usually, academic freedom. If you don't want to use it, don't. If you want, fine, upload. Now, this is what I mentioned earlier, that pedagogy should drive technology. And this is the reason why we need to realize that in migrating to the remote instruction, we have plans to create our modules, to create our learning material. What we have to remember is most of us who are teaching in face-to-face institutions have that mindset, that traditional mindset. For us, the teacher is someone who stands in front of the classroom and gives information. Like the banking method is a term sometimes used for it. You deposit information to your students and the students passively receive it. It may be teacher-centered, either fully or probably partly, because maybe you will have partly teacher-centered, but you also have activities which are learner-centered, which enable the students to be the ones to engage with the material and learn for themselves. But traditionally, sa atin, ang pagtuturo, pagpe-present, kunyari ng PowerPoint, and pagbibigay ng information sa students, which is why when we were caught in the lockdown, our initial impulse was, kailangan ko i-upload ang presentation ko, pero para mas engaging, lalagyan ko ng voiceover. That is our mindset. And so if we are not fully aware that there is a different pedagogy for online education that we have to consider when creating your modules and dividing the current coursework, you might tend to craft your activities and assessments also in that from that perspective. So that is the purpose of this talk. I am from a distance learning institution with online instruction, and I propose that we need a systematic way of designing and developing our standards that are given to us, but we need to use online learning and instructional theory. We need to use online learning and instructional theory to ensure the quality of online and remote instruction. We also need to design and develop our courses by systematically analyzing our students' learning needs and goals at this time of remote instruction. Why? Normally, we already have syllabi and we have instructionally designed curricula or instructionally designed courses. But remember, the context is different now. Students, the context now is different from then. So we may have to revisit and reanalyze what our students' needs and what our goals are. Also, the last thing I propose is that we need to develop an appropriate and reliable way of delivering a remote delivery system to meet these needs. So what do we need? We need to equip our teachers and our institutions with the knowledge and the skills in developing appropriate course materials in microbiology in that context, capacity building. We need to develop discipline-based content, preferably in modular form, that meets the CHED standards for microbiology. And we need to ensure that these modules we develop are aligned to quality and equity issues and requirements. Why modules? Because modules are standalone units of instruction. And it is feasible, it is practical, and it is doable with the materials we have and in the context that we have. And the last thing is we need to ensure that no one is left behind. We need to address different cohorts, various cohorts, including those who may not be who do not have access to those technology-driven approaches, as well as those who do have access but who prefer to learn without the aid of technology. We need to take all those cohorts into consideration. In other words, we need to design our online learning for microbiology courses in a purposeful way, a purposeful and informed way. So an overview of what I am going to speak about I just kept it to 3. The first are key concepts in online learning. The second topic is the design process. And the third is the design process in your context. Let me start by sharing with you some key concepts in designing for online learning. First, the definition. Marami kasi nagagamit siya interchangeably. Pero generally, pag sinabi mo online learning, the key word there is the internet. Online learning is electronically supported learning, which relies on the internet for teacher and student interaction, communication, distribution of learning materials. Sometimes it's used interchangeably with e-learning. However, some sectors say that you can have e-learning without the internet. You can have electronic learning by CD-ROM or by a local area network. But we won't split hairs. Online learning, internet. Now, what happened with the lockdown was, the initial impulse was to move instruction online kasi that's the most doable, no? For the most. Now, even if it can enable flexible teaching and learning anywhere, anytime, there are certain caveats because of the different factors. For example, biglaan, sudden and unexpected. Tapos very little time to prepare. Tapos, normally, in an institution, meron dyan yung mga champions of online learning, champions of e-learning, or mga technology-supported instruction. Not all of us are like that. So, kung meron man tech support for the institution, konti lang yung kanilang tinutulungan. Now, biglang everyone needed to migrate their courses online. So the level of support may not have been enough because everyone needed to get their lessons online. So the faculty also needed to improvise with the limited time. They needed to improvise. And everyone, even the students, not everyone is familiar with online learning, not especially the faculty. Some are very tech averse. So what happened was there were different responses to online learning to the point that some were saying, ayoko naman ng online learning, ang gulo naman yan, masyadong matrabaho or nakakainis naman, no? And that gave online learning a bad rap. And that is on top of the already existing stigma of online learning being of lower quality than face-to-face learning, although there is much evidence to show that this is otherwise. That online learning, when done properly, is very effective. Again, this hurried migration online, the fear was, the fear from practitioners and from those who were advocates of online learning was that these rapid migration online could seal the perception na ay talaga namang hindi mahusay ang online learning. When in truth, most of those who are making the transition were not able to design their courses to take the full advantage of the possibilities and the affordances of online learning. That is why they propose a different term, emergency remote learning. And that is why we are using remote. No? This is to underscore that well-planned online learning experiences are meaningfully different from those courses offered online in response to a crisis or an emergency or this disaster which happened to us. Now, we are somewhere between. That was emergency remote learning at the time that we needed to end our semesters because of the sudden lockdown, in the midst of a sudden lockdown, when final exams were due, periodical exams were due, summative assessments were due, biglaan, kaya siya emergency. Now, the other extreme is some institutions like ours, which are fully online, and the premise is that the teachers are, they're conscious that they are online teachers. Those who apply, the students, the applicants, the students are willing distance learners because they applied. So that's the other extreme. And we are now somewhere in between. We are doing remote learning. It's not an emergency, not on an emergency basis because we have time to plan, albeit small, very little time, matter of months. But we do not have the capacity or the capability of a fully online distance education institution like the UP Open University. So nasa gitna. So kailangan, ang approach dito, sakto lang. Hindi naman kulang na pang emergency remote yan, parang hindi mo naman pwedeng i-justify na hindi ko naman pag-aralan kasi hindi na, you have time to do it. Pero you don't have enough time. So hindi mo naman ma-expect na everyone will be knowledgeable with all the theories of distance learning and online learning para hindi mo mabigay yung whole package. So sakto lang. Sakto lang ang kailangan natin para we can develop lean versions of the modules in a way that's, it's proper. We can still improve on it as we go along. The bottom line is that for online learning to be effective, it has to be a result of careful instructional design and planning using a systematic model for design and development. And it has the design process. It has to take into consideration different decisions that have an impact on the quality of the instruction. Example, the use of the gadget. Will you agree to buying tablets or similar gadgets for elementary school students in the grade school level or for public schools? So may gadgets ka, will they have access to internet? Is that the most effective? This careful design process will be absent in most cases in emergency migration, but we have time to attend to it now. Now, reality check. Like I said, even if we study this, even if pag-aralan natin to, it will be impossible for every faculty member to suddenly become an expert in online teaching and learning. Kahit pa ilang workshops tayo or webinars. Second is even if there are resources for assistance, the scale of the change, meaning the necessity for migrating everyone, every single one, may stress the system and even surpass the capacity. Then, many of the online learning experiences that the teachers will be planning, they may not necessarily be well-featured, fully featured, kasi depende rin yan sa kung anong kaya ng panahon, ng effort, ng budget, hindi rin necessarily well-planned. Kasi minsan, kung ano yung malaman mo in that span of time, you will apply. And then later on, you will find out, ay, there's a better way pala. So the probability of it not being implemented optimally is high. There are also factors like minimum resources, lack of time, limited knowledge. And lastly, mindsets have also been considered. For example, many of the teachers in traditional institutions, when you tell them that, in online learning, you don't have to make your own PowerPoint with voiceover. If you haven't, you can migrate your existing ones, but you don't have to make one kasi, for example, in UP Open University, we have resource-based course packages. Ang ginagawa namin, we give core information and then we give links to appropriate materials, which are Creative Commons licensed, meaning it's open educational resources, so that the student can access it. You can even, many open resources are in YouTube. So pag sinabi mo na, sige, go to this YouTube video, some of the students, actually, many in private universities, may think, ay, hindi siya makagawa ng sarili niyang material. Bakit YouTube ang ibibigay niyang resource? Some teachers naman may also have the mindset na, ay, baka pag ni-refer ko sila sa link, baka sabihin nila wala akong capacity to make my own materials. Mindsets like that, which are understandable in the face-to-face setting, but in the pedagogy and in the context of online learning, is very acceptable and very, very feasible and very doable. And it is par for course. That's what you do a lot of times. So what are our remote learning concerns? We need, for the students, they need a way to access the course materials, to submit their deliverables, to receive feedback from teachers, to communicate with the teachers, and to know how and when the teachers will respond to them. For example, alam ko naman na si teacher, sabi niya, i-contact ko siya sa messenger niya, pero walang turnaround time. So I already submitted my thesis topic proposal 2 weeks ago, pero wala pa siyang response. Do I message him again? Do I tell my classmate to message for me? Basic teacher needs a way to deliver content, a way to receive deliverables and to give feedback, a way to communicate, and again, knowing how and when the students will respond to them. Nasaan kaya si student X? Nakauwi na ba siya sa province niya? Meron ba siyang internet connection? Bakit kaya hindi siya nagsasubmit? No communication. So, what have the remote learning initiatives been in the past? The initial is to transform your whatever existing lecture or presentation to just get it online. No? Kasi naghahabol ka eh. Matatapos ang school year, malapit na exams, wala ka pang, hindi pa alam ng students. Transform your teaching and learning activities into something that is feasible online. For example, preceptorials or small group discussions. Bigla ngayon, puro Zoom lahat. Pwede naman, equivalent. Transform and modify assessments. We got a lot of inquiries towards the end about periodical exams and final exams that were traditionally multiple choice questions, na long objective exams for big groups like 300 or 400. Paano namin gagawin yun without, very common concern, how will we do that without the students cheating? Diba? So you need to think about that. Many of them needed to create a course site in the learning management. Napilitan gamitin yung LMS. Bakit? Para ma-upload yung content, receive submissions, create assessments, communicate. Biglang yung UVLE at saka yung mga ibang Moodle-based na biglang nagamit kasi napilitan. Tapos you needed to create class communication, and you needed to find a way to meet. So those were the initiatives. But then, like I said, online learning has you have to discard preconceived notions, and you need to keep an open mind about online learning, because there are different concepts that are not really readily seen in a face-to-face setting. For instance, these are just 5 concepts that I'll go briefly just so to situate you, because this is just an overview. This particular webinar is just to give you an overview of the issues of migrating your microbiology courses in the online setting. There is Garrison's theory of interactions. Okay, if you look at the diagram, pag online learning kasi, pag face-to-face kasi, meron kang student, tapos meron kang teacher. Si teacher, binibigay yung content or material sa student. Pag distance learning, marami dyan. Yung content ay either material uploaded to the course site, o pwedeng reading, pwedeng link na hahanapin ng student. So ito, yung interaction, kasi ang remote learning, the student and teacher are separated in time and in space, no? Pwedeng synchronous na separated in space, pero you're at the same time, yes, synchronous, meaning kunyari nagchat-chat kayo, nag-uusap kayo, or to Zoom, synchronous, kasi you're at different locations, pero we do it together. Pwedeng asynchronous, meaning mag-iwan ka ng message and then makikita niya later, separated in geography, separated in time. But there are interactions, nevertheless. For example, student content interaction is when the student reads, kunyari, the material, a reading. Teacher content interaction is if the teacher creates the material. Student-teacher interaction maybe kapag nag-communicate sila through whatever means. But there are also other forms of interaction. Kunyari, student communicating with other students. For example, in collaborative work or in group chats. Teachers collaborating with other teachers, for example, in creating materials. Sharing resources. Holding team teaching. And there's also content, interacting with content. Like for example, RSS feeds, which have been configured to refresh with the latest data. So you can see that there are different interactions. And in the center, you have deep and meaningful learning. So yan yung mga interactions na kailangan natin maging aware of kapag may online learning. So anong implications nito? In planning for online learning, aside from considering yung content na i-cover ng teaching and learning activities mo, you also need to consider how to support the different types of interaction that are important to the learning process. For example, student content interaction. Mag-upload ka ba ng video na 1 hour? Di ba? Siguro, a few minutes pa lang talagang si student zone out na. Di ba? There is actually recommended, there are recommended lengths of time. There are recommended sizes of fonts. There are things that are recommended best practices to support interaction. This recognizes that, tapos, are you the type of teacher who will upload all the materials but you don't have any, the student can engage with the material alone? Pero parang ang feeling niya siya lang, kahit like siguro 100 sila sa class, you don't have any discussion forum, you don't have any group works, wala kayong group chat. So parang ang feeling ni student, nag-iisa lang siya sa course mo kahit 100 pala sila. Now, these things, when you plan for these things in your teaching and learning activities, you recognize, it's a recognition that learning is not just a process of information transmission. It is not just cognitive, it is also a social process where learners and teachers should interact with each other and both interact with the content. So effective online education requires that you invest in an ecosystem of learner support, especially since there is this feeling of transactional distance where the student feels that not only are they separated in space, but also instructionally there's this gap, because there's this transactional gap because they don't feel the presence of the teacher or fellow students. Next, the equivalency theory. There are 3 aspects. This is from Anderson. No? Back to the 3 aspects of online learning. First is the content, and then you have the teacher, and then you have the student. It's easier to explain it from this diagram. Now, dyan sa tatlong yan, ang ibig lang sabihin, mas importante ang interaction than kung ano yung mataas na level. Kasi ideally, all should be at a high level. Si student magaling, si teacher magaling gumawa ng lesson, use content high quality. That was good for deep and meaningful learning. Ideal yon. Paano kung si student, alam mo si student medyo mahirap mag-gets kung ano yung lesson. Magaling naman si teacher, maganda naman yung material, pero si student hindi talaga mag-gets. Medyo cognitively challenged siguro. Pwede din naman na si student very smart, pero si content hindi masyadong maganda yung pagkakagawa, si teacher hindi masyadong visible yung presence. Pwede rin naman na si teacher hindi masyadong present, si student cognitively challenged, pero si content napakaganda. Okay? Ang sabi ni Anderson, as long as there is one of these that are high, a high level of interaction, that can give a high level of interaction, it is possible to have a meaningful educational experience, a meaningful learning experience. Hindi mo kailangan na 3 or 2 mataas. Basta isa mataas, potentially pwede na. Now, wala ka naman control sa teacher kasi minsan yung module mo ginagamit yan, pinapasa. So kung matapat sa teacher na hindi masyadong engaged, hindi mababa sila, hindi mo makontrol. Student lalo na kasi iba-ibang klase ng student. But ang content, kaya mo kontrolin. So ang key point, ang bottom line, pag maganda yung content mo, at least meron ka ng input of quality dun sa interaction na yon. Kasi yun lang ang masisiguro mo yung content wala kang hawak dun sa dalawa. The third concept is the community of inquiry. And I'd like you to please tell me if you, when I shared my screen, I enabled sound sharing, but please let me know if you can't hear it. Please watch this video.
So this video will talk about a framework called the Community of Inquiry Framework that has become really popular and helpful in guiding research and design of online environments. So the framework identifies 3 types of presence. We have social presence, cognitive presence, and teaching presence. And what's also nice about this framework is it talks about how each one is interrelated with one another. The full reference to the article is here, and they also have a really helpful website. If you just Google Community of Inquiry, should be the first hit. We're going to talk about each one of these individually. So to start with, cognitive presence, without going into too much detail, is essentially students' ability to construct knowledge and understanding both individually and collectively, and using sustained communication to develop a better understanding of the content. We also have teaching presence. So teaching presence is the teacher's ability to set the curriculum, organize the course, and also participate in the meaning making that students are going through. They also have a direct impact on cognitive presence because they're the ones that are really regulating the learning of the students and making sure that they go through the processes that they need to go through in order to understand the content and make their own meaning of the material. Then we have social presence. Social presence predates the Community of Inquiry framework by quite a bit. And basically what social presence is it talks about how participants can establish themselves as real people in a course. And they do that by portraying their full personality in an online environment. So this has a lot to do with what they're using to communicate. So if it's text, it can happen. And Garrison and his colleagues have shown that you can establish a high level of social presence using text. But it can also be more it can be easier to do that using video or audio or things like that. But it's important as well to show the relationship between teaching presence and social presence. So typically in this framework, social presence is referred to as something that the students do or that the students have. However, with teaching presence, it's the teacher that sets the climate that really allows students to feel safe and to communicate naturally and really have the opportunities to express their personality in a learning environment. Also, teachers need to model that behavior, and that's part of setting the climate. So teachers also have a type of social presence, and some research has shown that teacher social presence can actually be more important to a student than their peers' social presence. So social presence is also really important because if you're expecting them to communicate about course-related topics, they need to feel comfortable with one another. And so Garrison and this framework basically says that a certain level of social presence can be a prerequisite for cognitive presence or for a high level of learning to occur. And that's really the contribution that they've made with social presence. Like I said, they didn't invent the concept, but they've really shown how it's interrelated with teaching presence and cognitive presence. And basically, they also say that when all three of these presences are together, that's when students are going to have the best educational experience, and that all three are necessary. So a lot of times in an online environment, we ignore the social presence and focus on the content and content interactions and things like that. But we really also have to remember that learning is a human process, and it's a social process. And so we have to have social presence in our courses in order to have a high level of cognitive presence.
Okay, so what's the implication? When you are going to make your modules, you need to design for presence, both social and not just social. You might think of social as student-student, which is fine. But you also need to incorporate your own presence in the material. How? You may review the past webinar, no? The presenters presented some of their practices na nakikita mo na kahit nandun yung material, kahit pa naka-PDF file siya, in terms of the questions or how the activity is crafted, kita mo yung presence ng teacher. No? So teacher presence means the student feels your presence even if you are physically separate from them. Which brings us to the role of the online teacher, which is very important when you think of how you're going to make or how you're going to transition into remote learning materials and instruction. Online teaching and learning is based on the premise that the online teacher has more, she or he needs to have more than just the ability to use the computer and the internet. No? More important than the technological skills per se that the teacher has, it is the knowledge of when to use it and when not to use it, and also how to use the technologies to teach and to facilitate learning. And this is informed by things. Paano ang alam paano yung pagkakaalam or ano yung level of knowledge ng teacher doon sa subject matter niya, ano yung meron siyang strategies, no? Na in this case, technological strategies, the level of technology, most appropriate strategies for teaching it, at ano yung general pedagogical skills niya or teaching related skills na meron yung teacher. Which brings us to this framework. This is the next topic, the next key concept in online learning, which is very important because it is a framework. It is a framework upon which a lot of online learning is based on, and it's called TPACK. Short video.
You're a teacher ready to tap students into 21st century learning, but teaching with technology adds a whole new layer of knowledge and expertise. TPACK, or Technological, Pedagogical, Content Knowledge, is a framework that helps teachers consider how their knowledge domains intersect in order to effectively teach and engage students with technology. It's an approach that looks at the combination of what teachers know, how they teach, and the role of technology in order to better impact student learning. So, how does TPACK work? First, consider three domains: content knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, and technological knowledge. Content knowledge, CK, is the what, your understanding and expertise of the subject area you teach, whether it's science, social studies, math, language arts, or all of the core curricular areas. CK is made up of all the facts, concepts, and theories of any given discipline. Pedagogical knowledge, PK, is the how, your expert knowledge of the art and science of teaching. From learning theories to instructional design, PK includes methods of teaching and assessment, like project-based learning, as well as instructional strategies like Think, Pair, Share. Knowledge of these principles helps you design successful learning experiences for each individual student. Pedagogical content knowledge, or PCK, is the intersection of the pedagogical and content areas. the knowledge you have of how to effectively engage students in learning concepts and skills. This knowledge includes approaches for addressing different learning styles and scaffolding content for deeper understanding. Educational psychologist Lee Schulman saw this intersection as teaching at its best. But several scholars, including Matthew Kohler and Punya Mishra, have added an additional component to 21st century teaching: technological knowledge, or TK. TK represents your knowledge about the tools, including how to select, use, and integrate technology into your curriculum. But it's not just about the devices. It's also the quality of content that students access through apps, websites, and games for learning. By integrating technology into PCK, you now have new insights into and opportunities for student learning. Technological content knowledge, or TCK, refers to how technology is used in a subject area for deep and lasting learning. For instance, to further their understanding of a topic, budding scientists can use sophisticated tools to collect evidence, make observations, and document findings. Interactive software then allows them to see their data represented in various ways. Application of such technologies can help deepen individual students' inquiry within a given discipline. Technological pedagogical knowledge, or TPK, is your understanding of how to choose and manage technology for your students. For instance, what technology will best ease your students' workflow throughout their exploration of the scientific method? How can you use collaboration tools to have students share their learning with each other? This knowledge about technology will advance your teaching. The intersection of all three knowledge domains, content, pedagogy, and technology, is the core of TPACK. This center area refers to your understanding of how tools can enhance your teaching and support student learning more deeply and effectively. For example, when learning about water pollution, students could explore 3D models of bacteria's cellular structure, and then create their own animated images to analyze local water sources. They then could share their findings virtually with a prominent field expert. This dynamic interplay of all three components is TPACK, the heart of innovative teaching. You can use the TPACK framework to assess your own knowledge of content, pedagogy, and technology. Consider which areas you feel confident about and which areas you could improve upon. But also think about how you can collaborate with others at your school or in your professional learning communities to combine your strengths. For example, you could meet with your technology coordinator to brainstorm ways to redesign learning experiences. And knowing that each student, each teacher, and each classroom differs, the dotted line around the framework symbolizes the context that affects how TPACK is applied in a practical sense. TPACK takes into account that every classroom context is unique due to variations in professional development, school climate, and available resources. In conclusion, TPACK will help you remember to start with your content and pedagogy, and then layer in technology. Sometimes we get excited about a new technology, and then we design a lesson around that particular tool. But in doing so, it's easy to lose sight of goals and objectives for student learning. TPACK reminds us that technology is just part of great teaching. It's truly an intricate combination of content, pedagogy, and technology that make for innovative teaching and learning. So, what does your TPACK look like?
Isn't that a nice video? Now, key point, or what's your takeaway on this? When you have plans, your consortium has plans to divide or to collaborate in creating the modules. Content is understandable, but you have to layer it with your pedagogical knowledge and your technological knowledge. And that aspect of collaboration, the one shown in the video, that is having a consortium at this point, is truly helpful, because I know a lot of disciplines that are nangangapa because they haven't organized themselves. And you have an edge at this point because you have an association and you already have plans. Now, the last principle is very straightforward. Principles of two principles of design. This shows the 4 levels of learning activity design, and this is understandable for you. Una muna, programs, the course or the modules of learning. And then within a module, you divide it into units or sessions, topics, lessons, units of learning. So you break it down into episodes of learning. ideally, each of these lessons should have, hindi po ba, pag kunyari may mga syllabus tayo o kaya mga instructional design, nakalagay doon yung course learning outcome, tapos may mga course objective. Ideally, now that you are going to divide this into different topics or lessons or modules, each of them should have their own learning objective. Hindi naman dapat yon mahirap kasi in the first place, kung magtuturo ka, dapat may purpose ka, di ba? Dapat meron ka talagang goal. So dapat hindi man lang siguro written or hindi lang articulated in writing, pero meron kang purpose kasi paano mo dinidesign yung ituturo mo pag hindi mo alam kung anong gusto mo ma-achieve. So kailangan mo lang ma-put into writing yung learning objectives for each unit of that course. And then you design for activities. Ito na yung clear na sinabi, you design for activities and the different activities that were mentioned in the first webinar, the activities that you planned or you read from internet sources or what you have in your institution right now. And then the last is learning objects. Ang learning object ay yung mga content na ginagawa nyo na reusable. This is especially useful in collaborations or consortiums like yours. Kasi, you know, these parang tulungan, di ba? If you create a reusable digital content, you can share it with others can improve on it, and it lessens also the load on you to create content. No, this is reusable, like kunyari, the different digital content. Now, kailangan lang natin matandaan, we have to keep in mind that these levels of design, they are dependent on each other. Meaning, if you design for one level, you have to take into account the other levels. For example, if you're going to design your learning activity, dapat na isa-isip mo kung ano yung available resources. Dapat consistent siya with the learning objectives. Dapat align siya sa course goals. Huh? So, now, in Beatham's principles of design, there are also 4 principles of Beatham's principles of design. The first is to design for learning outcomes, which kasi being all faculty, I don't have to go into this in much detail kasi alam naman natin, di ba, pag outcomes-based education, your target learning outcome may be a specific skill or an attitude or perspective or a capability, pero whatever you do, how you assess, all depends on the outcome. Your activities and your assessment should be aligned with the outcomes. Intended learning outcomes. Now, next, design for the learners. When you design for the learners, you take into account their needs, their preferences, their motivations, their skills. Actually, ito more than in normal times, kailangan siguro medyo pagtuunan ng pansin kasi you might leave someone behind. No? You need to know your learners and their context. Mamaya makikita nyo sa instructional design, nakalagay doon, minsan pwede kang mag-shortcut kasi given na yung set of learners mo kasi yung intake mo is usually consistent. For example, probably in your program, you requirements for entry, nakaset na yun. Pero ito, marami ibang factors na hindi natin plinano, like access nila to technology or kung nasaan sila. Diba? You have to think of that. How do you design for your learners? Ito, the third is to design with digital resources and technologies. Now, the tools and the resources, they mediate learning. So, if you are using different digital tools, you have to design around it, but make sure that it doesn't drive your pedagogy. In choosing your tools, you should also make sure to consider their affordances, meaning what they are good for, relative to yung sinet nyo na desired learning outcomes. Kasi yung learning outcomes, function yan noong subject matter at saka yung educational level. Di po ba? Pero aside from this, when you choose your tools and resources, you design considering the affordances and the outcomes and also the learner capabilities. And the last is to design for interaction. Like sinabi ko kanina, you design for social interaction. Interaction is not really just among students, no? Most learning involves the students interacting with a more expert person. That more expert person may be the teacher or probably the author of a book that they're using, or maybe a resource person that you invite or even a fellow learner who knows more about the subject matter than the student. So in online learning, you need to design for interaction and use your technology and various learning activity formats so that you can enable interaction and dialogue between the student and these expert persons. So what can you use? For example, chat or discussion forum or video conferences, especially now na we have Zoom. You can actually, for example, you can design an activity which can enable your learners to interact with a resource person, probably your colleague who is now doing a fellowship abroad and also locked down there. Na resource person ka naman, mag-discuss ka nung ginagawa mo sa Zoom session tayo, tapos yung students natin yung students ko heads up ko. That would be nice kasi you design for interaction and it's synchronous. Pero iisipin mo rin, paano yung hindi maka-log in ng Zoom? You need to have another format or plans for making it accessible to those who do not have access to the technology. Okay, now, next topic is a brief overview. Ano ba ang kailangan? Now, we now know na kailangan mag-design. We now know na meron certain concepts of online learning na maaaring hindi natin alam na natin now. So we need to design with those concepts in mind. O next step, sige, magde-design na po ako. Ano po ang kailangan ko? What are the requirements for you to design for your microbiology courses? Basically, 3 things yan. The activities, syempre the activities, the planning of the activities. The team, the team who's going to make those modules or plan for the course, for the new remote learning course, and the technology. Now, for the activities, ang gagawin kong example ngayon dito na course design framework ay ADDIE. Pero later on, in our practice, we will be using a simpler one. Kaya ko lang gustong makita niyo yung ADDIE kasi this is a very well-known, very stable, since the 70s pa to. And it's easy kasi it's so structured. I just want you to realize, I just want to give you an idea of how the structure of curriculum of learning design is. ADDIE is an acronym. It stands for Analyze, Design, Develop, Implement, and Evaluate. It is not linear. Hindi ibig sabihin na you have to do it in a linear way. But what it has are clearly defined stages.
The foundation of the instructional design process is the ADDIE process. ADDIE is made up of 5 steps: analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. The first step is analyze. In this first step, it's necessary to identify the problem that you'll be providing a solution for, as well as identifying learning goals, your learners and their needs, and the time frame for the entire development process.
Okay, so this would be, the problem is you need to migrate your existing course materials and your set of learners they're all going to be considered remote in various settings, and you need to design in the context that you don't have much time to do it.
The second step is design. In this step, the learning goals are transformed into clear learning objectives. The content is decided upon by sketching out storyboards and wireframes, and scripts are written for any videos or voiceovers.
Now that part, you don't need to focus on the storyboard. That's more for the really technical things. And as for the objectives, kasi planchado na yung curriculum design nyo, hindi na rin masyadong kailangan yan.
In this step, the storyboards and wireframes are used to help create the actual content that will be used in the module. It's at this stage when videos and voiceovers are recorded and edited as well. The fourth step is implement. In this step, the completed course or instructional activity is implemented in a classroom for students to use. This can be a pilot test or the actual launch of the course or instructional activity. The fifth and final step is evaluate. In this step, data is collected and reviewed. This is where you find out if the problem you are trying to resolve is in fact resolved due to the course or instructional activity that you implemented. It's at this stage that you might choose to revise your course or instructional activity due to the feedback and data from the implementation.
Okay. So, kaya ako lang ginawa example to kasi ito, very clear yung steps. No? First, you need to analyze yung needs. Needs ng program, needs ng learners, needs na rin ng teachers. Itong target audience and task topic, like I said, in higher education institutions, given na yan. If ever siguro, medyo iti-tweak mo lang ng konti kasi yun nga, yung learner mo given na. Tapos ito yung mga, parang given naman yung program mo, given na kung ano yung gusto i-achieve. Itong learning objectives, you have to revisit it lang to see if it's still relevant. Later on, di ba ang ginagamit po natin dito, Bloom's Taxonomy. Kaso pa yung mga learning activities natin ay hindi naman pwede lahat face-to-face. Later, I will show you a version of Bloom's Taxonomy for digital applications. So, ganyan lang po. Basically, kailangan lang, ang bottom line lang dito, paplanuhin mo. No? Once you have that, planado siya and purposeful, you develop it and then you implement it. And after you implement it, kikuha ka ng feedback. Anong feedback mo sa student? And then once you have the feedback, you redesign or you tweak your course para ma-improve, para ma-address yung feedback. So, ganun lang yung ADI. The second requirement is the team. Kaya ko lang pinapakita to kasi ideally, kung if we had everything, if in a utopian world, kung meron tayong lahat na gusto sana natin, including logistics, time, staff, funding, ito dapat yung team. Meron kang capacity development manager. Siya yung overall na nagmamanage. Siya yung may needs analysis ka, meron kang audience analysis, bago pa man ma-start yung initiative mo. Yung second, yung instructional designer. Actually, meron talagang nagde-design ng course. Bakit? Kasi the third person, the subject matter expert, like most of us are, we are experts in our discipline, in our subject matter, pero not necessarily informed in terms of educational technology, di ba? Or not even nga pedagogy Hindi nga tayo masyado pero expert tayo in microbiology, di ba? Experts naman tayo with the content. Minsan pedagogy, hindi pa nga lalo na minsan technology. Ang instructional designer, aware siya dyan. So, ang nangyayaring interaction, si subject matter expert sasabihin, ito yung gusto ko i-present na matter, the subject matter. Sasabihin ni ID, na-analyze na yan na-analyze na yung learner, yung context, available technology, yung setting, saan mo de-deliver. Sasuggest ngayon si instructional designer, siguro po maganda for that particular talk is ganitong tool. Sabihin mo, gusto ko sana video, sasabihin ni ID, baka hindi po pwede video kasi malaki yung content. So heavy, masyadong malakas kumain ng bandwidth. Baka hindi ma-download ng students. Things like that. No? ID ang gumagawa nun. Subject matter nagpo-provide ng expertise. And then itong mga ibang members ng team, yung web developer, media editor, yung mga yan yung mga tech support. No? Tech support din ito pag na-deploy na yung course. Tapos ito, alam naman natin, minsan masyadong malaki yung class size or masyadong maraming estudyante. Online facilitators, yung tutors, sila yung mga nag-help with student support or nagfa-facilitate or yung course mo na online, sila yung nag-administer kasi pag masyadong busy yung mga professors, hindi nila maasikaso. Kunyari malaki, large class, dinidivide into several small sections. Ideally, yan lahat ang members ng team. Tapos ganito sana, this is how the areas of responsibility go. The manager and the tech support, and actually ID, mostly manager and tech support are all there. The subject matter expert and the instructional designer come in at the analyze, design, development, and the evaluation. Dito in the implementation, papasok na yung mga ibang assist, no? Ideally. At in the real world, actually, pag kunyari, kayo lahat yan. Tayo yung gagawa ng sarili nating course. Wala naman tayong unit na, in other higher education institutions na private, I found out that they have a team, a web development team. pag kunyari gusto ni subject matter expert, I want to create an activity with this kind of resource. May assist, may tool. Pero hindi ako marunong ng HTML5, hindi ako marunong ng Flash. How do I do this? May assist. Ito, madalas, ikaw lahat. Kaya anong implication? Kung ano yung i-put out mo, yun yung factor yun ang alam mo. Diba? Kung ang alam ko, magaling ako sa PowerPoint at Word, malamang ang output ko moves around PowerPoint and Word. Hindi dahil sa gusto ko. Yun lang kasing alam ko eh. Tapos wala akong matanungan eh. No? Now, having said that, I just want to underscore na pag sinabi natin technology, usually ang naiisip natin, technology, internet, computer, and so on. And actually, there are 5 generations of technology, and the very simple printed module is actually a form of technology. First generation nga lang. Di ba ang UP Open U nga, we started out with print modules, which we were mailing to our students, and then sasagutan nila. And then it was like some form, pag kunyari may exam, they would come to the learning center. They would have face-to-face tutorials. Print is a technology. Radio and TV also. No? So, parang anong implication nito? Kasi minsan iisipin mo, eager ang bumili ang mga tao ng mga gadget. Hindi naman feasible sa area. Pwedeng radyo, di ba? Pwedeng broadcast. Mas sa things, hindi nga, minsan nga kahit SMS hindi feasible kasi yung cellular signal hindi rin maganda sa lahat. Just to make you aware that if you're considering your learner context, baka kung hindi kaya ng makagawa ka ng backup na makagawa ka ng plan in your learning design of your microbiology course na hindi naman kailangan internet driven, di ba? Because technology, you need to think of that kasi you use it not just to make to create the material that you're going to use and to also make it accessible and to deliver it to them. So pag initiatives like this, kailangan usually meron ka ng tapos of this scope na lahat ng tao ay kailangan nito, you need to have a learning management system, a platform, a learning platform, not just as a repository or a platform to deliver the activities, but also to track and to administer learners' activities and to manage their content. Now, technology, like sinabi ko, ang PowerPoint at Word, actually, technology rin yan na simple. No? You can use it to create simple learning resources like PowerPoint with presentations with voiceovers, presentations with those pop-up comments. Pag medyo mas may alam ka, you can have courseware authoring tools, special purpose tools that can create interactive e-learning content. Like yung dati nakita niyo, yung nasa virtual lab na you can use your mouse to move the wire loop, etc. You can add graphics and so on. Tapos minsan, pag kunyari, to beef up your activities, pwede ka rin gumamit ng mga authoring tools, mga software, Photoshop, Flash. Ang Flash actually heavily used. Yung virtual yung laboratory with the loop. Flash yun eh. Kaya lang, Flash is going to be discontinued in 2020 kasi magiging obsolete na kasi HTML5 na tayo. So that content will probably be available only up to 2020. Now, punta tayo ngayon sa LMS. Now, nung ako ay nagtatanong kay Professor Raimundo, kay Dr. Raimundo, kung ano yung mga topics, sabi niya, may mga nagtatanong about learning management system. Ang feeling ko, kasi nga, napilitan gamitin, tapos hindi naman masyadong used before, parang you want to know what the features are and how it can be used for microbiology courses. Kaya nare-realize nyo, it's not just specifically for microbiology. Magagamit mo whatever course you have, it can be used because an LMS is it's a set of interactive online services that can give both the teacher and the learner access to tools, to resources, to enable them to communicate and deliver education and learning through the internet. Ngayon, if you revisit the past webinar, very often mentioned to, like ang gamit ni Professor Balolong ay Google Classroom. It's strictly speaking not really it's an LMS siya in the sense na parang yung LMS functions, but you actually have access to that. Basta meron kang Google email, meron lang konting limitations. Basta may Gmail ka, meron kang capability for that. Now, if your institution has Google Suite, all the more, di ba? So, pwede ka mag-Google Classroom. Canvas, na-mention ni Assistant Professor Ong na I think he had experience with that with UP Manila, and also Dr. Balolong said na they were being trained in the use of Canvas kasi ang alam ko papasok na ang Canvas sa UP Manila. Edmodo, gamit ni Professor Ong din yata, no? For the materials at UPLB. Now, what I want to share is Moodle. Kasi ang Moodle, that's the other commonly used platform na open source, kaya very common. And it's also a very commonly used LMS na hindi na-discuss nung previous webinar. Ano ang important features? These are the important ones. I have a table that will show the other features. Pero una muna, management. Pwede kang gagawa ka ng course site. Pwede kang mag-store doon, mag-upload ng mga resources mo. Pwede kang mag-access ng resources through that. Pwede mo planuhin yung lesson mo at yung course mo. You can even factor in exams, quizzes, assignments. You can have engagement with the learner kasi you can create discussion boards. There's a feature there na you can communicate through messages. Tapos meron kang pwede mag-blog, pwede kang group discussion. There's so many features. Kaya lang, hindi siya masyadong, yun ang problema. Ito yung mga different features, no? So, it primarily, I won't go into detail. You can check out this slide because I'm going to give my slide deck. Now, excuse me. Now, I'd like you to read this first. I'll just turn off I'll mute my. I'm sorry po. I had to address the barangay captain with ayuda because otherwise our dogs will not keep quiet. So the main reason why LMS features are being underutilized, that's a sad fact, is because there are studies to show that a lot of it is because of simple lack of training. No? Minsan ang mga professors, natitrain sila sa basic use, the basics, like how to upload an assignment or how to update a gradebook. Kaya lang, hindi na sila natuturuan ng mga more complex features. Tapos, coupled with on top of the fact na most of the faculty are already overworked, underpaid, tapos bahala ka naman matuto, parang wala ka ng time na nga gawin yung mga tasks mo, tapos aaralin mo pa yan. So, hindi na ma-maximize. Now, what I'd like to share with you. Can you still see my screen po? Hello?
Yes po, we can still see it.
Okay. So, I'd like to show you, para lang gusto ko lang kayong bigyan ng idea, kasi itong papakita ko sa inyo ay Moodle. Mamaya papakitaan ko kayo ng resource na galing sa Canvas, tapos nakwento na yung Canvas, nakwento na yung Edmodo, Google Classroom din, nabanggit. Moodle na lang yung hindi. Ngayon, ang Moodle kasi madalas, kaya ang learning, like an LMS, pagpalagay na natin na kaya lang natin ginagamit kasi napilitan tayo. For example, naabutan tayo ng lockdown, tapos biglang kailangan natin mag-upload ng assignment o magbigay ng quiz, in-upload natin, ginamit finally natin yung Moodle, no? Ito yung magiging itsura niya. We had a course. Can you still see? Kasi naka-pause yung screen sharing ko.
What I can see is the slide.
Okay, as you see. Sige po. Now we had a training. Before this workshop, I was part of a training that we conducted for Region 5, professors from different SUCs. So para lang ma-facilitate yung aming work, it's a 5-day workshop every day. Actually, it ended yesterday lang. Para lang ma-facilitate yung aming training, gumawa yung aking co-facilitator, who was also my former student at MTT, gumawa siya ng Moodle site for our group. So ito yon, SHED DFHE, Flex Training Project, Flex Learning Project. Ito yung namin, ito yung Moodle site. So makikita mo naman na, iita natin ng konti. So ito yung, ayan yung objectives, tapos makikita mo, meron pwedeng announcements, tapos gumawa siya ng getting to know you, discussion forum. Ito yung discussion forum. So ito yung instructions. Hi guys, please introduce yourself by clicking.
Dr. Wen, we cannot see your slide.
Hindi ko makita. Ay, stop share ko po.
Yung presentation.
Yung presentation. Nakikita po yung aking presentation.
Yung nakikita po, Doc Wen, is the LMS?
Yeah, I'm doing the LMS now. I'm showing you there are no slides. It's the LMS I'm showing you.
Okay ba?
Okay. So, ayan yung features ng Moodle, no? Pwede mo siyang i-divide into day 1. You can see it?
The slide presentation po yung nakikita namin, not the Moodle.
Not the Moodle. Okay. I will Sige, I will stop share. And I will share again. Can you see it now?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, I'll repeat, no? So, before... Okay, thank you very much. Pasensya na po. So, ito yung Moodle site na kinreate nung aking co-facilitator. So, tignan nyo, very parang medyo empty. Parang ganyan ang itsura ng mga karamihan ng LMS. Kasi ito, in-upload lang niya, gawa nung kailangan yung training. Tapos wala masyadong laman, di ba? Walang ano. Pag nag-click ka lang dun sa course site, dun sa site niya, at saka mo lang makikita, ayan, yung aming training program, tapos gumawa siya ng announcements, gumawa siya ng discussion forum. Okay, tapos pwede kang mag-post, pwede kang mag-communicate sa discussion forum. Meron siyang assignment din. Pwede kang mag-submit ng assignment dito, i-upload mo. Tapos pwede mo siyang i-divide. Ang relevance nito, pag kunyari, institution mo, may course sites, pwede kang gumawa ng microbiology course site. Tapos, for the whole year, kunyari, divided it into different topics. Tapos, kung magle-lecture yung isang lecturer mo, sa kanya yung day 1, siya magde-develop ng section na to. Kasi, kunyari, ako day 2 ako eh. So, ito, day 1, ibang tao yan. Ako, day 2, medyo pinuno ko ng konti yung site ko. So, in-upload ko yung aking PowerPoint. Gumawa ako ng specific tasks para alam niya. Gumawa pa ako ng discussion forum. Meron naman nag-post, no? So, nag-post siya ng question. Tapos sinagot ko naman kasi nagtatanong siya, malabo daw yung assignment. So, pwede ka naka-reply ako. So, for my particular day, ginamit ko siya. Diba? Kunyari, ako ako yung microbiology lecturer for the second week of the course. Pwede mo, independent ka kasi nga, ang module is stand-alone. Pwede mong stand-alone. Ngayon, kung meron kayong gagawin na existing units of instruction, pwede mo na lang ilipat. Kunyari, nakapa-paper lahat. Tapos pwede mo i-upload o pwede mo i-develop yung course site mo online based on yung paper module na meron ka. So, yan ang Moodle na voluntary. Now, kami sa UP Open University, you know naman that we are actually, we are fully online. And I'd like to show you our portal. Kasi our portal or my portal is Moodle-based also. Pero ang difference is, ito talaga yung aming university. All the processes are there. So kunwari, ayan, papasok ka, no? Nandiyan ang aming library, ang aming registrar. Pag kunyari kailangan mag-file si student ng LOA, drop, mag-enroll for residency, ganyan-ganyan. Ito yung mga forms, ito lang kiklik niya. Kung kailangan niya ngayon mag-register, we're fully online eh. Kiklik lang niya yan. Nasa portal namin yan. We're all, kami rin yung mga pictures dito. So, yan ang student portal niya. Magla-login siya sa account niya. Tapos lahat ng procedures nandyan. Enrollment, course offerings, pati payment. Diba? Ngayon, punta tayo sa classroom ko. Kasi this is my site, this is my access. So, the ones in my dashboard are my courses. Can you still see po? Hello? Okay. So, ayan. Lahat ng mga nandito, classes ko yan. Yan ang mga hinahandle kong classes. So, classroom. Yan ang virtual classroom ko. I-click ako kunwari sa isang tinuturo ko. I'm teaching this to the undergrad classes. Kasi ayan. Introduction to Teaching Online. Ngayon, lahat ng materials ko, nandyan na. Kunyari, syempre, papasok siya. Introduction to the course. Ayan. Welcome to ganyan. These are my course goals. These are my course objectives. Tapos, kung gusto mo lagyan ng picture para medyo hindi naman puro script, ayan yung course guide ko, ayan yung academic calendar, meron akong resources. Tapos, meron akong non-graded forums, meron akong discussion board. For interaction, meron akong kapihan. Parang Starbucks ko. No? Kapihan. Dito, bawal mag-discuss ng academic matters. Puro chika lang dito. Parang social interaction. Para naman makita mo yung other side of your students. Meron akong assignment bins. Tapos, kunyari, meron akong first, let's scroll on. Kunyari, nakalagay dyan yung outline ko, yung course outcome, course module. Kung shinow ko yung alignment, no? So, nandyan lahat. Meron akong self-introduction. Yan yung getting to know each other during the first week. Tapos, nagpo-post sila. Sa akin, required mag-post ng pictures. So, ako nakapin yung aking introduction. Tapos, meron akong introduction. May points kapag naglagay ng picture. So, ako rin naglagay ng picture. Things like that. So, ang Moodle site namin, gamit na gamit, ang daming pwedeng gawin. Pati final exam ko nandito. Let's scroll down. Medyo naka-hide pa kasi syempre hindi pa naman. So yan yung sinasabi ko. Sa online learning, dapat naka-roll out yung buong course mo. So, nandiyan na yung mga activities namin, kaya lang naka-hide. Ayan hidden from student. Pero actually, lahat ng modules ko nandiyan na. Pati final exam ko nandiyan na. Final exam, kiklik lang niya yan, kiklik niya yan. Graded na yan. So makikita mo sana, compared to the other one, ang dami mong pwedeng gawin sa LMS. Ang problema lang, hindi nagagamit kasi hindi aware ang faculty kung ano ang capability. Ang UVLE is like this also model-based ang UVLE So kahit pa siguro, although syempre, it was their decision to have Canvas, siguro even if they didn't have Canvas, okay lang, kaya lang. Now, I'm going to share my screen again because we're wrapping up with the talk. Sorry. I'm going to share my screen again. There you go. Okay. So, ayan. So ngayon na alam niyo yung sistema, ito na ngayon yung instructional design. Ito ang sinasabi ko na parang simpler version ng ADI. Na ito, ang nagsulat nito ay si Professor Bonito, UPOU, saka si Ma'am Ling. No? Ito, may talk sila. Actually, you can view it if you log on to UPOU networks. This is a video file. You can watch it. So there's a simpler way. It just works na titignan mo yung learning outcomes na, di ba, may syllabus. Tingnan mo yung learning outcomes mo. Tapos, sa structure mo yung content. Pipili ka ng materials, design ka ng learning activities, design ka ng assessment. Ngayon, parang adi rin yan, no? Kaso, ang same thing. You analyze the learners, same thing na sinabi ko kanina. Kaya lang ito, ang sabi, you can divide it into blocks, no? This block, and this block. Pag wala kang, ito naman, nasa networks din to. Sa talk ni Professor Arento, former Dean of Faculty of Education, former Program Chair of MDE, and also former Faculty Regent, pwede ka naman mag-rapid instructional design. Ang ibig sabihin, kapag naman yung course mo, alam mo naman, na-analyze mo na yung learners mo, tapos defined na yung outcomes kasi nakakita na nga doon sa course documents. You can actually pare it down by just improving on the materials and the activities. Yung learning content mo nakastructure kasi hindi ba in our courses at UP, papadala mo lahat ng BOR approved di ba? So naka-approve na yan, outcomes, course outline. Pwede mo lang i-develop pero hindi ka dapat mag-deviate from the outline. So, iibahin mo lang yung learning resources mo at saka yung activities. Kung medyo obsolete na yung papalitan mo. Yung activities mo, kung hindi bagay sa face-to-face, palitan mo ng pang-online. Rapid instructional design, pwedeng gawin yan. Mas madali, no? So this is just a summary na hindi natin kailangan to go into detail kasi yan lang, needs assessment. Analyze mo, is there a need? Ano yung objective ng course? Sa ano yung context ng course? You can just revisit this in the presentation. Pero ito, basically, titingnan mo lang kung ano yung needs mo at ano yung context. Ito, learner analysis. Sinabi natin kanina, we need to study our learners para makita natin kung ano yung context nila. Pero aside from this, ang personal thought ko, iniisip ko rin, dapat din i-analyze ang teachers. And siguro dapat lahat tayo mag-reflect. Ano ba talaga ang ating educational philosophy? Hindi masyadong common yan for teachers who are primarily subject matter experts. Ito very, sa education, no? Kapag yung mga talagang nag-formal training in education, what is your educational philosophy? Ano ba yung educational philosophy? What are your goals and beliefs as a teacher? Why is this important? Kasi itong statement of personal beliefs mo, it will be put into action in your classroom and in your course site. So, maaaring mag-change ang philosophy mo. Ang philosophy mo nung face-to-face, pwedeng magbago na now na remote instruction. It may change as you mature in your profession. It may change as you gain additional experience. Pwede yan magbago. Pero dapat, ano ba ang educational philosophy mo, lalo na ngayon, na remote instruction? Ito, hindi ko na to masyadong, like I said, kasi learning objectives, aware na tayo dyan kasi outcomes-based tayo, paano gumawa ng learning objectives, SMART, at saka yung Bloom's taxonomy verbs. Ito lang ang gusto ko sigurong i-share, no? Ito yung common, ito yung traditional na Bloom's taxonomy. Ito, gawa ng very common ang digital tools. Meron ding Bloom's taxonomy for activities with digital tools. Galing, ano? So, kunyari, blogging is under creating. Podcasting is creating. Kunyari, uploading is applying. Diba? This is a resource. It's in my slide deck, so you can look at it. And the references are also there, so you can check it out. So, importante lang, ang key point dito, i-keep in mind pa rin natin yung triple alignment na nabanggit ni Dr. Tan from the very start. No? First, think of what do you want your students to be able to do at the end of the course, and then you design for assessment what activities can show to you that these students have achieved the outcomes that are expected, and what learning activities are bagay dun sa assessment na planned mo para rin ma-achieve yung outcomes. Okay? So, triple alignment. Our next session on July 2 will be on assessment. So, doon ko na lang i-explain yung mga concepts of understanding by design, backward design, and so on. Now, this is the home stretch, no? Sa microbiology, it is very likely that a set of materials are already available for a specific subject like microbio. Kaya, nakita nyo naman, yung mga materials na you just have to revisit the other webinar para makita. If I click on this kaya, makikita nyo. Can you see can you see?
Hindi po.
Ay, hindi. Anyway, when you stop share. Share ko lang ha. Example. Kunyari, you have, okay. If you go to different sites, like for instance, American Society of Microbiology, you have a lot of, you just log in, and then there are many materials here. You can use that for searching. You can use that for, iba pa, next. There are also other courses. This is interesting, no? Canvas. Okay. Sorry, we're doing this the hard way, pero ito. This is interesting kasi. This is a Canvas site. Can you see it? Kita po?
Yes po.
Okay. So, if you click on the link in the PowerPoint kunwari, makikita mo may access ka dito for medical microbiology, bacteriology. If you view their course stream, makikita mo na modules. See, ito mga to, all these are modules. So, it's again, module is the way to go. So, you divide it into modules. Tapos, this is a Canvas LMS. You will, everything is here. You click on each link to gain access to the information, and so on. So, kung titignan mo, maraming resources, hindi ka magkukulang dyan. Kaya, kailangan lang marunong ka, hindi ba, again, nabanggit ni Dr. Iris, na you need to know how to curate. Okay? So, what about instructional methods or delivery? Iba-iba yan. Pwedeng expositive or like, you know, exposition is providing the information. The teacher provides the information. Diba? Expo. Kaya pag trade expo, naka-display doon yung mga exhibits for everyone to see. And the participants take all the information in. Kaya trade expo. Expositive, exposition, emphasis is on the student absorbing information. Application, for the lab, emphasizes the learners performing procedures and building new knowledge in the process. Tapos collaborative emphasizes the social dimension na parang collaborating with other learners, with other groups. So, ito yung mga pwedeng instructional methods. Kunyari, pag exposition, presentation, or case studies, tapos work examples or demonstration sa lab. Application, pwede rin, no? Case-based exercises, role-playing, simulation, parang yung sa virtual simulation na laboratories. Collaborative, discussion forum, or group work, collaborative work. So, ano ngayon ang delivery formats? So, kunyari, simple learning lang. Pwede yung, di ba nabanggit ni Dr. Balolong, mga documents, PowerPoint presentation, pwede yun. Kung with or without interactivity. Pwede ka rin naman dun sa animation ni Assistant Professor Ong. Sabi niya, merong animated yung mga pre-lab materials nila, di ba? Merong interactive din. Tapos may videos. Pwede ka rin naman kay Dr. Iris, very siya dito, presentations made by an instructor which are broadcast in real time or recorded, pero siya, nag-a-add siya ng sarili niyang, like kunyari, ways for the students to interact. Interactive e-lessons. Pwede. This is for demonstration. You can also have a virtual classroom where the instructor shows the application. Pwede kang, actually, ang virtual classroom, pwede ka rin kunyari, gawa ka ng video, pakita mo, or pwede mo i-demonstrate sa Zoom, pwede rin yon. What about case-based methods? Ito, e-learning linear lessons. Pwede din yun, naalala niyo yung sinabi ni Iris, parang yung branch scenarios, yung parang choose your own adventure, di ba? Sabi niya, ganun. Pwede yon, electronic simulations. May ano yan, may software for that. Pwedeng tutored individual activities. Tapos, activities performed by a group. Collaborative. Paano for role play? Same thing, no? Simulations, role play. What about collaborative? Collaborative work, project work, guided research. You can use wikis or shared documents, Google Docs. You can use blogs for presenting results. You can use discussion forums or emails or chat, audio or video conferences like Zoom. Ang daming pwede, no? Guided discussions, discussion forums, and so on. Now, ang ano lang natin is you need to organize. The way to go is really using modules, no? If you already have the course documents approved. So ang hindi lang determined is the course structure because yung individual faculty members na assigned to teach the course, minsan sila nagde-determine nun paano nila i-deliver kasi nga academic freedom. And this is determined base sa learners, base sa given objectives, ganong katagal, how much time is available for teaching the content, at kung anong instructional method or learning strategy ang pipiliin ng faculty. So tama po kayo, you're on the right track because the way to go is to chunk your course contents into units called modules or blocks. Like I said, it's a self-contained unit of course content and it's a pedagogical approach. The students can move on through a series of units of instruction, even remotely. This is possible. This is how we teach at the UP Open University. This is an example of a module. You saw an example that I shared with you in my course site. So it's basically all your materials divided into blocks. Learning objectives and learning activities and assessments aligned to the objectives. So this is my last slide. And again, I would like to end by showing you this slide on what do we need to do at this point. And you are on the right track because you actually have a plan for creating your collaborative teaching, your materials. Siguro lang po, we need to keep in mind the concepts that are unique to online learning and designing for content, designing for presence, designing for collaboration and for social, for not just for the cognitive aspect, but also the social aspect. What I will recommend is, since you already have plans, just make sure that that each of the HEIs doing their respective modules are aware of this. If you need assistance po in orienting them as to the online way or the online concepts that they have to keep in mind, you can just contact us anytime and we will be happy to assist you po. So with that, I would like to end my talk. I hope you got something from it. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wen, for the information and guide on remote instruction that we can apply to microbiology courses. So we are now in the open forum, and I just would like to remind everyone to please type your questions in the chat box. We already have several questions from our participants. I will ask them as they have been posted either privately or as a message to everyone. The first question for Dr. Wen is from Dr. Thomas Edison de la Cruz of the University of Santo Tomas. He is asking, what strategies or tips can you share when handling online classes with lots of students per class? And how can we effectively ensure and monitor interactions between students if there are many of them attending our course? Dr.
Well,
Wen?
yeah, thank you po, Ma'am Les. Actually, that is a big concern because it is the one question you have to ask yourself. Is the platform you are using, is there another way where you can divide this large group of students and divide them into sections or groups, smaller groups, to make the teaching more effective? Now, if you are having like a Zoom conference like this, for instance, you can um, you can use it to deliver the content, and then you can have breakout groups, and then you can assign people to handle those breakout groups. That we've done that a lot of times. Just yesterday, I'm holding a workshop for a medical institution. We had 172 participants who all listened to my talk, but after that, we had a breakout session for an activity that needed an output. So we had 7 breakout rooms, each with its own moderator, each with around just a very small number of participants. That's one way. But another question to ask is, kailangan ba talaga, kunyari, example ng ganun na synchronous? Kasi you can divide them into sections. In UPOU, for large classes, we have sections, and each section has a tutor. But there is a faculty in charge for everyone. Those are just some ways. Other ways are talagang maggagawa ka ng, kunyari, projects that divide them into smaller groups. And then when you assess them, you can have a group assessment, and you have peer evaluation, which factors into the grade. There are ways, depende rin sa context ng subject.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wen. The next question is from Geraldine Dairit of UP Manila. She's asking, how can we assess competencies of students, especially in the laboratory part, to ensure that they are ready to work in the real world?
That is a challenge as of now. Kasi competencies are not just fully dependent on what the student can demonstrate that he or she can do. Many of the competencies are products of experiences in the real world. For example, kahit marunong kang in the clinical aspect, nawawala ang experience of interacting with patients, interacting with fellow fellow people on duty, diba? So you have to acknowledge that there are limitations to what we can do. What you can do is, hindi naman siguro, hopefully, if you have a student in a 4-year program, hindi naman siguro tayo naka-lockdown for 4 years. So what you can do is you do what you can with the resources and the setup that you have. Tapos you design to have learning activities to develop those competencies down the road. So siguro uunahin mo muna yung pwede mong gawin, yung doable. But you keep in mind activities designed to address those competencies kapag pwede na kayo at least mag-blended learning. For example, dumating yung point na pwede kayong mag 1 week face-to-face, 2 week online. That's the consideration kasi ang basis nun is, ang sabi nila, pag yung block ng students, 1 week kunyari face-to-face at nasa lab, given na kunwari meron sila, o kaya nasa clinics, nagro-rotate, na limited, sila lang, magkakasama sila. And then, if ma-expose sila or something, parang sila naka 2-week quarantine, parang ganon. May ganon. So, if ever, doon mo ma-develop, doon ka pwede mag-design for the competencies na hindi mo kaya online. Pero for the meantime, hindi possible yun. So siguro, i-move up nyo na muna yung mga pwede nyong gawin remotely. Tapos yung mga ibang hindi talaga pwede i-design online, i-move nyo na lang later sa school year or probably later sa program. That's what institutions have been doing.
Okay, the next question is from Nadia Abesamis of Silliman University. I think the question is based on the technological challenges that many HEIs have right now in the context of remote learning. So she's asking, how can we provide reference materials to our students that do not require too much internet access? Dr. Wen?
Well, actually, you can upload materials that are accessible offline, and then you can just have them assign a download day for them para limited yung, kunyari, meron kang materials na na-curate nyo for a week. Hindi sila kailangan mag-online every day of that week. Kahit nga 1 hour online lang sila on Saturday, download nila lahat ng materials and they can work on them offline. I've been doing that for my students in my classes na talagang walang access nung access is a function of many things eh. Minsan, pwede naman, kaya lang di ba mahal ang data? O minsan, meron namang internet cafe, hindi ka naman makalabas. Pero makakalabas ka ng 1 hour. So, if they can have a time to download that, but you will have to make the information downloadable, the materials downloadable. Then they can just access everything. Parang gano'n. Hindi na sila kailangan mag-online every time. That will be part of your design and your planning. So, wag ka magde-design ng video. Kung ang students mo pala hindi makaka-access, edi limit your resources to yung mga downloadable, doable offline. It doesn't even have to mean that when they download it, it's all readings. You can have them download instructions for activities, diba? You can have them download projects that they can do offline, and then upload it during their download day. Those are some strategies.
Now, the next question is related to technological challenges, but this is in the context of the HEI having the ability to have a learning management system. So, Beverly Amparado of Mindanao State University, Marawi City is asking, what learning management system can you advise for us, considering the very slow or the lack of internet connection among our students around Lanao del Sur?
The problem for that is many of the learning management systems are internet-based nga eh. So medyo, there are some, if you have a local area, hindi rin pwede, no, kapag, it will be hard to have a learning management system kapag mahina ang internet connection. So you will have to factor in that in your design. A lot of people have been managing with their students without using an LMS. Kasi nga, it's doable, but you will have to communicate by email or by other factors. Well, you can also try using Google Classroom. Kasi if they have the capacity to use their Gmail and the Google Suite, malaking chance, pwede rin naman sila mag-Google Classroom. And you can use that you can design your activity, you can design your course in such a way na they don't need to log in for long periods. Or you can assign times when they can, you can make it asynchronous. Na, kunyari, may discussion forum, they can answer it anytime na may access sila. You'll also need to design your assessment and your activities around that to give them leeway. Kasi nga, limited ang kanilang access. Pero yung mga big ones, mahirap.
Dr. Johnny Yee has a similar question regarding a learning management system. So, Dr. Yee, I hope Dr. Wen has already answered your question. And now perhaps I can ask the next question from... Okay.
Pahabol lang sa learning management system. if it's institutional, you can also ask your institution. You can raise your concerns with your institution. Kasi dapat ganun that's the way to go eh. Dapat they should also provide support to the faculty and the students. If you have an LMS in place and an LMS is not cheap, you should also have, there should also be provisions for support. Yun lang po.
The next question is from Ronaldo Lagat of DLSU Dasmariñas. He is asking you, Dr. Wen, as per your experience, what is the most reliable form of online learning assessment? Although we will have a webinar on assessment, perhaps you would like to give us ideas right now about that.
It's very hard. The way to answer that is, it depends kasi on the context, and it depends primarily on the learning outcomes, and it depends on your resources. So there's no one recommended kind of assessment. Kasi what is a good assessment for one outcome may not be a good assessment for another. So ang kailangan mo lang dyan, dapat aligned and dapat doable online, taking into context everything, like the learner, the internet, the technological needs, and your capacity, your capacity to execute that kind of assessment. So depende sa konteksto. Yun ang sagot ko. Maybe we can talk about that in detail next webinar, because I think I will be the one handling that also.
Yes, Dr. Wen. Perhaps you can discuss more about that next time. We also have a question from Angelbert Cortez of Cavite State University. His question is it ideal to provide the students with recorded lectures, but the video time reaches up to 1 hour? Because he is asking this because he's thinking if his students will get bored while watching the virtual lecture.
Actually, there are recommended best practices for having videos. And one of them is not to make it too long, precisely for that reason. Having said that, we understand that we all have been used to having PowerPoints. And I think the primary practice with the lockdown was we translated the PowerPoint into video, kunwari po, ganun. But ideally, it should not be long. For that, what you can do is, one, break it up into segments, or it's actually very hard to have that kind of long. Para pong a long Zoom conference like this, the 2 hours, buti po nandyan pa kayo kasi po, mahirap po looking in front of a laptop and speaking to it. And, not really knowing if people hear you or if people see you. Yun pa lang, mahirap na. What if you have a student watching it po? Mahirap din. So, designing for it actually, that's one whole course in UPO. It's 12-week course. Best practices for your multimedia materials. In a nutshell, kung meron pong ibang way para hindi ganun kahaba at hindi ganun klaseng, mas maganda po sana hindi. If you start wondering, baka po may pinanggagalingan if you yourself think na baka masyadong mahaba. Pero kung yun lang po yung naging option nyo nun, okay lang po yun. We just maybe moving forward, maybe we can find ways to improve on it.
Okay, the next question is from Dr. Hil Pelunliar of UP Diliman. So he says flexibility of online learning leaves much room for students to procrastinate. Many students struggle to stay motivated with studying and completing their assignments. While teaching self-discipline and time management are beyond the general goals of microbiology courses, what are your thoughts on how this could be addressed when we design our online courses?
You design for good interaction with your students. That's the way to go. because students will procrastinate. Para lang po yung nanay na nagdanag. Pero ayaw naman ng nanay magnag. Para lang gentle reminder, gentle reminder. If the student doesn't hear from you, mas madali mag-procrastinate. But if there are ways of engaging with the student in a way that's also not, you know, you have to also tread on carefully kasi mahirap naman yung sobrang in your face ka na lagi ka na lang nangungulit. But if you are generally from experience, if you engage with your students, you have good communication, and they also have interaction or communication among themselves with their peers, gently reminding themselves, it will work. You know, even I procrastinate. It's human. I don't know if it's human nature, but you really need. It's a challenge, admittedly. So siguro if we can just engage with each other and keep us, you know, remind each other that there are things to be done. Maybe that's a first step towards it. Challenging, but you know, we can. Those are baby steps towards it.
Thank you, Dr. Wen.
Thank you rin po.
That would be the last question for the open forum. I hope I did not miss any question. At this point, we would like to thank again Dr. Maria Rowena Raimundo for pointing out that there is a learning curve for both faculty and students as regards remote instruction. That is very encouraging to us, Dr. Wen. I think our buzzwords for this morning are needs assessment and design. So now we should not only be teachers and mentors, we should also learn to be designers. So we are now at the end of the program. So I wish to thank everyone for a productive open forum. And the survey conducted by the Microbiology Consortium would be very helpful for the consortium to design meaningful webinars for its member HEIs. So we encourage the participants to accomplish the survey and evaluation form that can be accessed through the link that will be flashed on the screen.
Les, may I say something? Les?
Dr. Raimundo would like to say something.
Okay. We would like to flash the assignments that you HEIs are supposed to accomplish among your group members. But before that, I'd like to lobby for the signing of your MOA. Many of the HEIs have not yet signed the MOA and have not paid the required consortium fee. So if you have to keep on with our activities, you have to lobby your administrators to have that MOA signed and to pay the consortium fee, so you have some funds to go on with these collaborative activities. Okay, Bon, can you flash the assignments for the module preparation for the basic micro? Okay, here, so we have the microscopy, UP Los Baños. Basic muna, Bon. The first one. That one. So here are the lead HAIs as agreed upon during our Microbiology Consortium board meeting. Aseptic techniques, culture media, you can see them. So, like in UP Los Baños, the other HAIs from the Region 4 will collaborate with them. UP Manila from NCR, UP Visayas, the whole UP Visayas region membership, UPLB again, Region 4. Exercise 5 will be from Mindanao, HEI membership. Exercise 6, Cavite State with the Regions 4 HEIs. Exercise 7. Anybody from MMSU attending? We can unmute you or show your video because we haven't heard from Dr. Prime, but we will contact her. And exercise 8, UP Diliman with other HEIs from NCR. Okay, for the advanced microbiology courses, here we go. So microbial ecology, will be handled by Cavite State U with UP Los Baños, Medical Micro, UP Manila, Virology, UP Visayas, Industrial Micro, Mindanao, IIT, Microphysiology, UP Diliman, Food Micro, MMSU. So those universities nearby are expected to collaborate with this lead HEIs in coming up with a development of framework for these microbiology courses. Okay, so I hope you all participate towards the development of this material so we can have good materials for our online teaching of our courses. Okay, here are, Bon is splashing the links to the first webinar, which is shown in YouTube. And then answer the evaluation form in order for you to get the e-certificate. So we thank again Dr. Wen Raimundo, Dr. Dalmasio, for everybody for attending this webinar. We hope to see you again next week, Thursday, 10 a.m. Again, we have our Suki, Dr. Wen Raimundo and Dr. Dalmasio as our host. Thank you, everyone. Bon, wag ka munang mag-leave.
I would just like to remind all participants to accomplish the evaluation form so that you will be entitled to receive a certificate of participation for this webinar. The video of the available in YouTube after 24 hours. So as mentioned by Dr. Raimundo, the Microbiology Consortium Webinar 1 is already available in YouTube. Let me also take this opportunity to announce that the PSM will have a scientific webinar on July 16 and 17. Please also check the PSM Facebook account for future activities of the Society. That's it for today. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat at magandang tanghali. See you next week.